So for more, and of course the latest on what's expected to happen over the next few days, we cross to our UK correspondent, Makin Isherwood. Laura, good morning. And of course, as the world continues to pay tribute to the Queen, what's London waking up to this morning?
Well, this start of a new era, essentially, the ending of this second Elizabethan era and into a new one, which will have King Charles III as the monarch for the United Kingdom. Of course, yesterday we were dealing with this announcement that Queen Elizabeth II had passed away. It appeared quite sudden, given that Buckingham Palace only released a statement a few hours before her death was finally announced. And then, of course, that traditional plaque, that paper confirmation that she had passed away was placed at the gates of Buckingham Palace, which is just up the Mall behind me. At the moment, there are flowers outside the gates. People were streaming to come to this area of London last night to pay their respects, and flags are flying at half-mast across a number of royal palaces and above Downing Street as well. So it's definitely going to be taking a little time for people to get their heads around the fact that Queen Elizabeth II has now gone and we're moving forward with a new king.
And of course, speaking of the new king, Laura, many are asking, so how does this work now? Charles, of course, was next in line. But what does that mean for titles of the likes of the Archie and Lilibet, for example? So just talk to us about that sort of development.
Well, we know that Prince Harry and Meghan stood back from the front line of the royal family, and they have their own titles at the moment, both the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It's not clear what might happen with the children now, of course. At the moment, a lot of the focus is on the next 10 days leading up to the funeral here in London. So at the moment, King Charles III will remain in Balmoral, at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Today, at some point, he will take the train journey back to London alongside his wife, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, who will be known as the Queen Consort. They will be returning then to meet officials, members of Parliament as well, and he will be officially sort of put into post as the King of the United Kingdom. So that is the first stage of today. Then the arrangements will be made for Queen Elizabeth II's body to be also returned to London. We understand that the plan at the moment is for that to take place via train as well, but if there are any issues, then she will be flown to London. Her body will then lie in state for a few days before her funeral within the Houses of Parliament in one of the oldest halls, Westminster Hall, before a number of processions, both military and royal attendants in that as well. They'll move that coffin then through to Westminster Abbey, where that funeral service will take place, that memorial service attended by dignitaries from around the world, around the Commonwealth, leaders, prime ministers and presidents all expected to attend that, before her body is then eventually laid to rest at Windsor Castle in the chapel there.
Laura, any indication at this point as to when exactly that funeral will take place?
Well, traditionally, it's on the 10th day after it is announced that the monarch has indeed passed away. Now, normally, we would call that day itself D-Day, but given that the announcement was made so late yesterday in terms of the timings here in the United Kingdom, we understand that today is actually D-Day, and so it's 10 days from now that we expect that funeral to actually take place. Now, these plans, these preparations have been underway for decades, consistently updated with officials across government and also within the royal household poring over them consistently. There will have been rehearsal after rehearsal, with military involvement, of course, because that it plays a key part to these kind of state affairs, as we saw quite heavily in the Jubilee celebrations this summer. And then the decision, of course, will be made for the members of the royal family to perhaps walk behind that procession, but a lot of those details will come out in the coming days. At the moment, a lot of the focus appears to be on the family because they are indeed grieving. And while they're going through this transitional process, there have clearly been these heartfelt messages from King Charles III about his mother, saying that he will deeply miss her, and her loss is a real blow, effectively, for the United Kingdom.
Indeed. Laura, will leave it there for the time being. Thanks so much for that update. And that was our correspondent in London, Makin Isherwood, speaking to us about what's to happen in the next 10 days or so following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II.